By the end of this tutorial, be pretty confident with what I would describe as the where question, where different muscles actually are, where they're positioned in the body. But I also want you to focus on today is a different W question, which is the what question. What do these muscles actually do and contribute? And that's why I've sort of separated them up into different images, and we're going to focus on one at a time. This muscle here is called a deltoid. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. It's one of my favourites. I bet you don't even have a favourite muscle, do you? Well, the deltoid's one of mine. And you see here, the deltoid, otherwise known as the shoulder muscle, we're going to refer to the deltoid, it actually performs numerous functions. It can, for example, help the arm to come up into this position, which we would call abduction. It can do that role. But it can also cause the arm to come behind the body or in front of the body in extension and flexion, respectively. So we've got the deltoid at the back of at the top of the arm. And you notice here, the deltoid wraps all the way around the shoulder. And therefore, and that's one of the reasons it can perform numerous roles. Let's move it a bit forward after our deltoid. We're now going to look at one of our more trickily spelled muscles, and that is the trapezius. The trapezius. Here we go. It's a very intricately and interesting shaped muscle. Now, a lot of what the trapezius does is it will lift the shoulders up like this. We actually call it elevation. We don't really study it in this course, but it's a nice thing for you to be aware of. I'll just put those arrows a bit more clearly for you. It would raise up like this. So if you're doing things like upright rows, shoulder shrugs, the trapezius is involved in that kind of movement. Let's move it on just below the trapezius. We could draw it onto here really, but over here we've got our latissimus dorsi. Okay, our latissimus dorsi. And you see there, these kind of wing-shaped muscles on the back, really large muscles. Now, if this person's arm was in this position, the latissimus dorsi would pull it back towards the midline of the body. Now, of course, we call that adduction. So the latissimus dorsi is involved with adduction. Now, if you consider, for example, that earlier on I said the shoulder, the deltoid, causes abduction of the shoulder, well, that means that these are a pair of muscles, the shoulder and latissimus dorsi, the deltoid for abduction, the latissimus dorsi for adduction. So a really nice note of what it does, not just where it is. Now, we've got here, if I just label down here, we've got the pectorals. In fact, if I was going to write it in plural, I've obviously pointed to one pectoral there. There's the other one. Our pectoral muscles or our chest muscles. These muscles are really important in numerous processes, okay? So they're really important if we're performing things like press-up actions, if we're doing pull-up actions, if we're pressing anything away from us. They're really important there. It's also involved in breathing, but we'll study that in a different way on a different day in a different course. We now want to look at the arms. Here we have our bicep. Guys, please do not forget the S on the end of the word bicep, okay? We have the muscles on the front, if I just draw this down, the front of the upper arm. Now, of course, when this bicep contracts, it will shorten, and that will cause the elbow to curl, or what we call flexion at the elbow. So it's really nice to realize that the biceps typically cause flexion at the elbow. And I say typically because there's a little bit more nuance and detail there, but it's a nice rule of thumb to remember. At the back of the arm, we have, very similarly named, tricep. S on the end again, please. Now this time, if the arm was bent and in this position here, the tricep, if it contracted, would straighten the elbow. Of course, that then means it's elbow extension. So really important with anything involved in a throwing action, a press-up action. These are really nice movements to be aware of with the tricep contribution. It straightens the elbow, extends the elbow. Now here we have our abdominals. Here we go, abdominals. Now I've stripped away a few muscles here to be able to see this. I mean, this obviously is a very good depiction of my abdominals. I mean, Mr. Six-Pack, I've never been called in my life. But anyway, here we go. We've got the abdominals here. Now, the abdominals are really important as a core muscle, core strength muscle. They stabilize us. They're at the center of almost every sport in action, really, literally at the center, because they hold us sort of still and allow sort of like efficient movement to occur. But the other thing to bear in mind, of course, and you know this if you do sit-ups, is that if we flex our spine, in other words, we bring our sort of back towards our knees, then that is obviously the abdominals contracting. Now then, we're almost there. We're now looking at the leg muscles. Whole bunch of images here. Let's just take them one at a time. First things first, we have got 4 muscles here that sit on the front of the leg, and they are sort of our upper thigh muscles. That's our frontal thigh muscles. We call these our quadriceps, not our quads, our quadriceps. And it's a group of muscles, and I think it's important. And that's why I took this angle. Look, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4 different muscles there. I'm not going to get into naming them. We could, the 3 vastus muscles and the rectus femoris. We could do that, but the quadricep group is here. Now, important, guys. No, folks, I was in full flow there. My software crashed, so I'm going to have to do a little quick edit there. But the point I was trying to make is that if my knee, or if this individual's knee was in this, we just changed colour, if it was in this position here, preparing to kick a ball, for example, there, these muscles would contract, lift upwards in this way, and of course they would cause extension of the knee, okay? So extension of the knee, and that's the role of the quadricep. Now we've got a similar picture on the back of the thigh. Here are three muscles, and hopefully you can see them in the angle that I've got here. We've got let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3 there. You can only see 1 and 2 here. But what we've got here is we've got the hamstrings group. Note, you cannot state hammies. That's not okay. The hamstring group, okay? Now, in this case, if these muscles contract, they effectively pull here, they curl the knees this way. This causes knee flexion. Okay, so lovely. Now we've got our gluteals here. Let's write that in. We've got our gluteals. Let me change color. Gluteals here are, our butt, basically, our butt muscles. It's one of the bigger muscles in the human body. Now, when the gluteals work, when they contract, they sort of pull in this direction like this. So inwards and upwards. Now, what that does is it effectively causes the leg to come behind the body like that. We actually call that hip extension, the leg coming behind the body. And that's what the gluteals actually perform for us. And finally on our list of muscles, tricky spelling, but really nice one and a crucial muscle to learn for almost all sporting movements. We've got the gastrocnemius, okay, and of course the gastrocnemius, because a lot of sporting movements happen on the feet by definition. Now, how does this work? Well, the gastrocnemius, we've got it here. This muscle will contract upwards like this. It will pull on this tendon. This tendon is inserted onto this heel. And when this pulls up, it sort of points the toes downwards like this, okay? So the gastrocnemius operates the ankle, at least the sort of the point of the toes. Now, we don't do what's called plantar flexion on OCR GCSE, so I'm not going to talk to you about that, but that's the role of the gastrocnemius. I think it's really important that we do touch on that, at least just to reference it. Okay, there we go. That's the muscles. Cheers.